Hey, what's going on, everyone? James Nine Numbers here, and welcome back to another episode of the Political Freedom Fighters podcast. Now, I know it's been a while since I've interviewed someone to be on my podcast, but you know what? I finally managed to get somebody in, and I know this video is going to be a great video because someone's here with me. So obviously, if you all enjoy, please hit the like button down below. Feel free to comment if you need to. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you can be notified with more new videos. So, anyways, with that being said, today's special guest is someone who happens to be the chair of the Constitution Party of North Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome to you all Vinny Smith. How are you?
Doing excellent, James, and I really appreciate the invite to come and be on your podcast this evening. So thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anyways, the first thing I gotta ask about is who are you and what do you do?
so so who am I? What I do? Well, it's a good question how to answer who am I. But I as you mentioned, I'm the chair of the Constitution Party of North Carolina. I do several things. My son and I we have a business together in Cary. It's in a kind of an education technology and youth development video gaming center where we provide STEM camps and do coding, video game design, and and we do have teams as well. And it's all about creating a productive environment and experience for young people utilizing something that they like, which is video games. So that's one of the things that I do, and just a lot like spending a lot of time with my family and getting out in the yard and doing some yard work. So that's kind of a little bit about me, but feel free to ask any specific questions if anything you want me to to dive deeper into.
Yeah, I think last year when I stumbled upon your website, you mentioned a bit about your organization. I will definitely be linking that in the description on this episode. And tell us more about this video game company that you and your son are in.
Absolutely. So it's North Carolina Esports Academy, and our what we're doing there is we're building character and life skills through productive video gaming. One of the things you think about when you think about video gaming, parents hate when their children lock themselves in a room hours on end. They don't take breaks, what have you. So, we create an environment where, young people, they have the same interests, they come together, so they get to come socialize, and they come and they're learning, and they're learning about, like I said, coding and video game design and just a lot of different topics, because a lot of times it veers off from there. They'll ask questions and we could go and talk about cybersecurity. We're talking about servers and different things like that. So it's a great experience. It's about, like, really introducing young people to technology, the different career paths that are out there. There's a lot of jobs that go unmet, and so we want to help, kind of help build a force of young people that have a desire to go into these fields, because one of the things we go to a lot of education meetings and to a lot of workforce development meetings within North Carolina, and we're seeing that there's a great shortage when you look at the in the tech space, and it's because young people really aren't introduced to it prior, before they get out of middle school. Because what they say, once they get out of middle school, then they're pretty much not that they even are thinking about it, but subconsciously they've already figured out what they're going to do in life as far as which direction they want to go. And so one of the things that we're doing is, like I said, we're trying to help with that, with introducing it, early on, because it's not just about, young people that they know technology with the iPhones or iPads. It's about them actually applying different, certain skills, and using a critical thinking and that whole thought process, and so that is kind of where we are geared towards. Then the other part is we also have teams where they are video game teams, and one of the things is that not everyone's going to play a traditional sport, and this allows young people that may not be interested in a traditional sport to come together. They learn sportsmanship, teamwork. They learn how to strategize. We're talking about different attributes that they're going to need in life, and those are the types of skills that we're teaching. So that's basically what we do. It's really great to see how the young people develop, and the parents absolutely love what we're doing.
That's great, and I'm so glad you mentioned cybersecurity because I've only heard like a few people talk about cybersecurity, and it does seem like a big concern that not many people seem to talk about because cybersecurity, from what I heard, we in the United States tend to struggle compared to like the rest of the world. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Well, yes, and I think cybersecurity is going to be an area that it's definitely it's not going away, and we're going to need, unfortunately, we're going to continue to need further advancements. And when we're talking about, hey, having young people where they're thinking and they're analyzing and once they start asking questions, and so they can uncover, hey, well, gaps and different things that exist, so that we can protect ourselves against that. So yeah, so that it's very, very important. And as you said, um the world is really, well, the world, but there's different pockets and sections, especially when you talk about in Asia, where they're ahead and really advanced. And there's no reason why in the United States that we should definitely kind of be at the top in this area. And we want, and our goal is to help within North Carolina to to really build kind of a force here where people will come and we want to keep as many people here as we can, as far as to help with North Carolina. But as far as that, people will come to recruit our talent that we have here. So that's one of the kind of one of the goals that we have, is kind of to be this kind of technology hub, from a standpoint of um, the talent that's out there to fill these types of positions.
That's awesome. Anyways, let's talk about the history of the Constitution Party of North Carolina.
Yes, well, the Constitutional Party of North Carolina, and I'm trying to remember exactly if it was around maybe 2007, 2008, as far as when the party here was formed. And so the Constitution Party, basically, we have seven, what we call our seven core values. Um, so we believe in a religious freedom, sanctity of life, traditional family, we're pro Second Amendment, believe in private property rights, anti socialism, and national sovereignty. So that's kind of the foundation of who we are. And we're obviously, we're not a Republican Party, we're not the Democratic Party. We're considered a third party, another option for people. And we believe in the Constitution, and strict adherence to the Constitution. And a lot of times we hear some times that people will use the word Constitution. um we hear elected officials every now and then say it, but really everything that someone who's in office, what they do, if you think about it, the oath of office that one takes, and regardless of the office, it's about some of the words, like for like the president is to preserve, protect, and defend. I think generally everyone else says to support and defend the Constitution, right? Constitution of the United States, or the Constitution of North Carolina, or whatever state it is. And that's in the oath of office. And so it's very important then that, for the elected officials to be accountable to that oath of office and truly know the Constitution and abide in what they do within the Constitution. And with that being said, it's so important for us, we the people, because if you look at the U.S. Constitution and the North Carolina Constitution, it starts off "We the people," because it's written, it's to us, and so it's we have to hold the elected officials accountable and responsible to the Constitution, and that is what we talk a lot about within the Constitution Party. Um, and so we if we do that, we'll get away from the left, thinking about the left, or thinking about the right, or however they want to, liberals, conservative. We'll get away from those terms, and we will be united as a people within the state of North Carolina, within the United States, if we focus on strictly adherent. What does the Constitution say? And so, okay, and if we come and say, okay, well, this is the matter, what does the Constitution say about this? And let's discuss it in that framework. That puts us then kind of all on the same page and not any type of political or party view about it, whatever it may be, but we're strictly adhering to the Constitution. So that's what we like to do. We're about educating people on the Constitution and what it says as far as what our liberties and our freedoms are.
All right, that's pretty awesome. So, why did you join the Constitution Party?
Well, it's pretty interesting. I remember growing up, I I always I would always hear um the the kind of the two-party system, and I would hear kind of what they're saying, and I try to match things up, and I said, well, something just doesn't seem right or sit right with me. And so early on, I was an independent. If I remember from the first time I voted back in when I was at the Naval Academy, and the first time I voted in 1992, and I voted for then third party candidate Ross Perot at the time, and I've always voted. Uh, Independent party, from a presidential election, and so that I was always, so I had that independent party, third party thinking. And then I'm trying to remember exactly what year it was, but I came across the Constitutional Party. Well, actually, and it's kind of funny how it all happened, because I didn't realize the Constitutional Party of North Carolina existed. And so Kevin Hayes, who is our vice chair, called me one day, and he said that he was returning my call. And I said, "Oh," now and he started, telling me about the party, and I had never called him, never reached out. I never even heard about the party. Nothing I even inquired about, and that's how I actually found out about the Constitution Party. And then I went to one of the state conventions, and I really liked the platform and what they stood for, and it was the genuineness of the people that I came in contact with within the party, and that's what made me want to be a part of the Constitution Party of North Carolina.
That's a pretty good explanation. And for those of you that are watching, I do apologize. I ended up getting some sort of random call on my end, so I do apologize for that. So, anyways, we're gonna go over your party's platform, and I guess we're gonna first start with the 7 core values first, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
All right, the first core value, sanctity of life. The preborn child whose life begins at fertilization is a human being created in God's image. The first duty of the law is to prevent the shedding of innocent blood. It is, therefore, the duty of all civil governments to secure and to safeguard the lives of the preborn. To that end, the Constitution of the United States was ordained and established for ourselves and our posterity. Under no circumstances may the federal government fund or otherwise support any state or local government or any organization or entity, foreign or domestic, which advocates, encourages, or participates in the practice of abortion. We also oppose the distribution and use of all abortion fashions. We affirm the God given legal personhood of all unborn human beings without exception. As to matters of rape and incest, it is unconscionable to take a life of an innocent child for the crimes of his father. No government may legalize the taking of the unalienable right to life without justification, including the life of the preborn. Abortion may not be declared lawful by any institution of state or local government, legislative, judicial, or executive. The right to life should not be made dependent upon a vote of the majority of any legislative body. Further, we condemn the misuse of federal laws against pro life demonstrators and strongly urge the repeal of the FACE Acts as an unconstitutional expansion of federal power into areas reserved to the states or people by the 10th Amendment. In addition, we oppose the funding and legalization of bioresearch involving human embryonic or pre-embryonic cells. Finally, we also oppose all government quote unquote legalization of euthanasia, infanticide, and suicide. Oh yeah, I would like to get some more explanation on that.
Yeah, so when we talk about the sanctity of life, and we believe in, like we talk, the preborn all the way until say natural death, um, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. We believe that if you think about it, a newborn, they don't have a voice, yeah, and but they should have the right to live. And so that's what we believe in, within the Constitution Party, and and that's really, kind of how we stand. We don't believe that anyone should take another person's life. That may be oversimplifying it. So if you had any further questions, please ask.
No, I think we're good for now. Anyways, next up is religious freedom. Article 1 of the Bill of Rights reads Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Our Constitution grants no authority to the federal government either to grant or deny the religious expressions of the people in any place. Both the First and Tenth Amendments forbid such tyranny. We call upon all branches of government to cease their attacks on the religious liberties of the people and the states, regardless of the form in which these liberties are exercised. We assert that any form of taxation on churches and other religious organizations is a direct and dangerous step towards state control of the church. Such intrusion is prohibited by the Constitution and must be halted. We assert that private organizations such as the Boy Scouts of America can determine their own membership, volunteers, and employment based on their oaths and creeds.
Yes, and so when we talk about religious freedom, and I just one thing I want to go back, talk about with this topic as well as sanctity of life. I just want to mention, when you look at Article, and this is the U.S. Constitution, we look at Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution. It lists enumerated right, uh, the enumerated powers of the federal government. And so, if something is not listed there, then it's to go to the states. And a lot of times, what we see uh, when you have candidates who are running for a federal office, right? We often hear, the topics of abortion will come up. It could be healthcare, it could be education, right? And they'll talk about Social Security, certain things. But all of those are outside the purview of the federal government, and so we shouldn't even be discussing it on that level, and it should be come to the states. I just say that if from an education standpoint, that's important for us to know, because we see all the time these become, big, they become huge topics, but it's something that's, like I said, outside of their purview. So then, like I said, it should come to the states. And now, when we're talking about religious freedom, going to, yes, the First Amendment as far as, the freedom of speech, expression, and it's really a dangerous slope when you have the tax exempt status where government can hold that over a religious organization, and to get them to kind of comply with whatever the government may want, and that should not be. A lot of times when we hear about the separation of church and state, and people say that, or whoever may say that, says it from the standpoint of that the church should not be involved in, if you're within the matters of the state, or they should not have influence in the matters of the state, which is which is totally incorrect, because who the if you think about the church, the church is made up of who? It's made up of people. The people are we the people, right? Constitution, so about we the people. So the church has a voice because it's made up of people, just like an individual does. So when it's talking about the separation of church and state, it's the state that's not supposed to tell the church what they should be able to do. But a lot of times things get twisted. And so we definitely believe in and advocate for and fight for the religious freedom.
Yeah, and I can understand that, especially here in North Carolina, where we are a religious state. Religion does play a part in our culture because we are in the Bible Belt, and here in the Deep South, religion is just like a big part of our identity. And people are becoming more religious than I would say. There are more people who have at least become more religious ever since the death of Charlie Kirk, and so yeah, I think religious freedom is going to be pretty important in the near future.
Absolutely.
All right, next up is the traditional family. We assert that the traditional nuclear family, consisting of one man and one woman joined by marriage, is the healthiest and most secure relationship and form of family in which to create a stable and prosperous environment to establish and build strong families. We believe it is the best form of family and should be encouraged by law.
Yes, and so we do believe in, like I said, as you said, traditional family, one man, one woman, and just going back to scripture, from the beginning of time, when you had Adam and Eve, and God gave Adam, a helpmeet, which is Eve, and they were supposed to be fruitful and multiply. And so, well, how does one? How do you be fruitful and multiply, except for with one man and one woman? Now, with that being said, one thing is we do not, as far as sometimes people think, oh, well, may say, oh, the Constitution Party, because we take that viewpoint. We believe, and we have respect, and we have love for all people, regardless of what their choices are, right, from a standpoint of if they who they wish to have, as they call it, as their partner or what have you. No, we believe in, like I said, we have respect and we have love for all people, but we do, we stand firm on our beliefs in the traditional family.
All right, All right, the next up, pro Second Amendment. The right to bear arms is inherent in the right of self-defense, defense of the family, and defense against tyranny, conferred on the individual and the community by our Creator to safeguard life, liberty, and property, as well as to help preserve the independence of the nation. The right to keep and bear arms is guaranteed by the Second Amendment to the Constitution. It may not be properly be infringed upon or denied. The Constitution Party of North Carolina upholds the right of the citizen to keep and bear arms. We oppose attempts to prohibit ownership of guns by law abiding citizens and stand against all laws which would require the registration of guns or ammunition.
Right, and we believe in that basically we should have a constitution carry law, um, and because we do have the right to bear arms. And you mentioned that about that you can have tyranny, um, and that can come if people are not able to protect themselves and to defend themselves. So we have it within, like you said, it's in the Second Amendment, and so we stand behind that, and that's one of the things that, um, except for protection of oneself, protection of family, protection of one's community, um, and I understand there's incidences, there's mass shootings and things like that that happen, and when those things happen, then that's when we always hear it seems to surface as far as gun control, gun control, gun control, and um, it's I think we need to really look at what would be the end result if we have gun control, and and so we have to look at it from that standpoint. And like I said, number one, like I said, according to the Second Amendment, it's all right. But also, I think that people need to look at it from the standpoint of if what's going to happen if our to our freedoms and our liberties if our Second Amendment rights are taken away.
Yeah, and especially with the whole which about the last part, which says, "And I stand against all laws which require the registration of guns and ammunition." I think I can agree with that last part because I think we do. I think in like all states, North Carolina does have like a voter registry, and unfortunately, within the state board of elections, there's like some voter search where you can look up like people who are registered voters. And after learning about this, I can understand why people would be against the national registry because I actually do oppose of the openness of the voter registry. So that does concern me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that you bring up a very good point. Um, I think these are some things that to your point that needs to be addressed, and it's up to us again, kind of us, we the people, to and whenever we there's something that we don't like, we don't agree with, we should call our local representatives, well, if it's a state matter, if it's a federal matter, then call our our U.S. representatives, House representative, and U.S. senators, but and voice our opinion, either call them or email or what have you. But it's very important for us to make our voices heard, um, and uh, because when we do that and you have a group of people, well, one, we have to make our voices heard by communicating with our representatives, but two, then is if they won't do what they're supposed to do, then we need to vote these individuals out to so that we send a clear message that no, I mean that is something we're not going to stand for it, and that you have to adhere to the Constitution and to what we the people um are asking you to do, because the elected officials are they are represent the people, and a lot of times we're really getting away from that. The elected officials think that they have the power and authority, but they don't. They only have the power and authority that's given to them through the Constitution, and that power and authority really does it comes from the people. Like I said, they're our representatives. They work for us. We're the employer, they're the employee. And so we as people, we have to understand that and hold them accountable, and not just every 2 years, 4 years, or 6 years, depending upon the office. Because say, oh, okay, I'm gonna go and vote, and then that's it. Because what business owner do you know that says, that hires someone and says, oh, hey, I'm going to come back in 2 years, 4 years, or 6 years. You can hire who you want. You can spend as much money as you want. You can make any decisions that you want. That doesn't happen. No business owner does that. But we, the people, are allowing the elected officials to do that.
Yeah. All right, next up is national sovereignty. Okay, this is actually going to be a good one. The United States is properly a free and sovereign republic which should strive to live in peace with all nations, without interfering in their internal affairs, and without permitting their interference in ours. We are, therefore, unalterably opposed to entangling alliances via treaties or any other form of commitment which compromise our national sovereignty or commit us to intervention in foreign wars. To this end, we shall steadfastly oppose steadfastly oppose American participation in any form of world government organization, including any world court under United Nations auspices. Call upon the President and Congress to terminate the United States membership in the United Nations and its subsidiary organizations and terminate U.S. participation in all so-called UN peacekeeping operations. Bar the United Nations and its subsidiaries from further operations, including raising of funds on United States territory, and proposed that the Constitution be obeyed to prohibit the United States government from entering any treaty or other agreement which makes any commitment of American military forces or tax money, compromises the sovereignty of the United States, or accomplishes a purpose properly the subject of domestic law. In this connection, we specifically denounce the agreement establishing the proposed free trade area of the Americas (FTAA) and any other such trade agreements, either bilateral or regional in nature. All treaties must be subordinate to the Constitution, since the Constitution is the only instrument which empowers and limits the federal government. American troops must serve only under American commanders, not those of the United Nations or foreign countries.
Well, yes, I tell you, we really have a big issue in this country when you look at one. We talk about the Constitution. If you look in this Constitution, there's only one branch of service that within the U.S. Constitution that that we're supposed to have, or we want to say we're allowed to have, and that's the Navy. We can have an army, but that it limits that army to 2 years, and that's but obviously we see no that doesn't happen. So we have an Air Force, we have Coast Guard, we have now it's Space Force, and we have all of these branches, but that's it's not in the Constitution. Uh, we go um, overseas, and we get into entanglements, foreign entanglements that has nothing to do with the United States. We try to say that we're safeguarding the United States, or whatever. No, by going out and creating havoc.
Oh crap. Um oh crap. Is my internet working? Um oh shit. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Come on. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? No. 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 No.
And we're continuing to
send money to other countries with these foreign, entanglements. Like I said, sending arms and money for, to help them in fighting these, their uh, battles and wars. So I think we really need to bring everything back home.
Okay, Vinny, I apologize. My internet actually ended up crashing. I believe went on the point where you said the word havoc. So I want you to get back to like what were you saying at that point?
Oh yeah, so I was saying that we're go. So with our country, I said that we basically we kind of go overseas, and I said we basically we create havoc in other countries. Where we go in and we can say it's in the name of democracy, but no one asked us that the people there are people no who asked us to go in there um and to uh to remove leaders or whatever the case may be. How would we like it if someone said, "Hey, they don't believe," they said that they may say have issues with our country, and what are they going to do? Are they going to come over here and start bombing us and whatever, and try to overthrow our government and what have you? No, and so. Um, we should have our national sovereignty where we're taking care of ourselves here, where we're not sending or this foreign aid money and armament over to other countries. We should keep that here. We take care of ourselves. We shouldn't be sending tens and hundreds of billions of dollars overseas when we have a national debt that's running out of control. And so these are things that that we have to look at, and so we should just be protecting ourselves here at home and let other countries handle their matters.
Yeah, and I agree. I know that the Constitution Party opposes NATO. Obviously, it's not the only party. I know that the Libertarians and the Greens and a whole bunch of third parties are also against NATO. I think the only people that are basically for NATO, from what I know, are the Democrats and Republicans, which I find really odd and really specific to the point to where it made me become more anti-NATO. And when I learned more about like NATO, I was like, "Oh, I see. NATO is a very corrupt organization." I was very disappointed in Donald Trump when he said that he was going to like send in some more money to NATO and NATO was going to send that money to Ukraine. I was so disappointed.
Right. Yes, I mean, those organizations. I know you mentioned the UN earlier, NATO. Absolutely, we do not need to, participate in any of those organizations, and we definitely, as you mentioned, we should not be serving as far as any type of if you have UN forces and or NATO, any type of NATO forces, we should not be serving under any foreign commander.
All right, that is pretty good actually. All right, I guess the last of the seven core values is anti-socialism. We assert that we are opposed to federal aid, foreign aid, and national health care. We deny the assumption that civil government has the authority to set wages and prices. So doing is inconsistent with principles of individual liberty and the free market.
Yes, and so the big thing is the again with the federal government overextending its reach, um, going outside of its purview. When we take money from the federal government, well, the federal government can again they can use money as a weapon, and as far as if the states do not comply with something within the federal government, and once again if it's outside of their purview, um, according to Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution, we should not be adhering to anything. And that then comes down to our state legislators, right? When we talk about our General Assembly and the governor, w- um, we should take a stand that, against anything which the federal government is doing that's outside of the authority and that they have according to the U.S. Constitution. It's very important for that we adhere to that. And so yes, so any that type of creating that socialistic society we believe in, like I said, I think you said it was, the free market, a capitalistic type of society. That is one that we need to have, where it's one where we're not, it's not a dependency, where the government creates and makes it to where people are dependent, not just dependent from the point where they're asking for it and they want the government to do. The first thing that people look to solve problems is to go to the government, and that's not what the government is there for. It's about, we need to build, we that's when we're talking about, the strong families, strong communities, where we are taking care of ourselves, families are pulling together, communities are pulling together, and that we are working with one another, so that we're helping to build up, strong communities, and not where we have a dependency on the government.
All right, that's pretty fair. I guess once now that we've gone over the core values, let's go over some other stances of the Constitution Party. Next up is capital punishment. The Constitution Party of North Carolina, being pro life from conception to natural death, believes in defending all innocent life. Nevertheless, the innocence of life ends when that individual criminally violates the right to live of another, and therefore punishment to both prevent future harm and to deter others from committing the same heinous crimes is just. When all doubt has been removed through the submission of ample evidence, and the jury finds that the individual is guilty of murder and has convicted him of the same, we support the right of a jury to use capital punishment. It is important that any individual convicted of murder and sentenced to death be allowed to appeal their case within a reasonable time to a higher court. Therefore, we strongly believe in obliging the appeals court system to hear all appeals brought before the court in cases where a jury has sentenced the individual to death. Capital punishment should be carried out within 60 days after all appeals have been heard, in order to prevent the waste of taxpayer funds and to deter others from committing the same crime.
Well, and then this is going to be interesting, because yes, that is within the Constitution Party of North Carolina, and I would say, and in those within the party, do know that capital punishment is one that I do not agree with. It's just like anything else. We may not agree with everything that one may say or what have you, but I do not believe in capital punishment. I believe in, thou shalt not kill. I believe, when we talk about sanctity of life. Now, if someone commits a crime, should they pay the price for it, as far as, imprisonment, what have you? Absolutely. But for us to take a person's life because they took another person's life, that's kind of, doing the evil for evil, an eye for an eye, or whatever the case may be. And I do not
Got it.
believe in that. And so I just wanted to share that.
All right, I understand the differentiation. That is actually pretty nice. Next up is vaccination reform. In recognizing an individual's rights defined under the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution that states, the right of the people to be secure in their persons shall not be violated. The Constitution Party of North Carolina calls on all levels of government to end the forced vaccination of its citizens under any circumstances. Individuals have the right to be secure in their persons and choose whether or not they or their children should be vaccinated. The Constitution Party of North Carolina also calls on all levels of government to end cooperation with the World Health Organization, who, where such cooperation infringes on national and state sovereignty or on the rights of its citizens.
Yes. Again, each individual person, their body, it's their body, and we do not believe, when we talk about, once again, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, we do not believe that um, any there should be any mandates, any government mandates, or any when it comes to forced vaccination. Like I said, if we're going to have freedoms and we're going to have liberties, if we're going to have religious freedom and all these things, then we should not there should not be any laws or anything passed that says that it's going to be a forced vaccination. That should be up to uh, the individual, like you said, or parents if it's their children, if they wish to vaccinate their children, or if one wishes to get vaccinated. It should be an individual choice.
All right, that is fair enough. I guess the next thing I can go over is education. The estimable responsibility to educate our youth should and does ultimately lie with the parents, and no government should infringe on the parents' right to educate their children in the method they see best, or prevent them from enrolling their child in the school of their choice, as they may see fit for the future of their prosperity. In order to allow and promote the education of our state's youth and see improvement in the state's educational system, we strongly believe that parents who wish their children to be educated outside of the government run school system, whether homeschool, private, religious, or otherwise, ought to receive equitable tax relief.
Yes, well, and when we talk about education, and then we have this education system and model, which kind of started really, when you have the industrial revolution, and it was really about creating an sort of an educated populace, for as far as an educated workforce for to the and over time what has happened is that it's really like a certain type of indoctrination that within our education system that goes on over time. And um and so, yes, we definitely believe in the choice of homeschooling, and I so that's one that my wife and I, we homeschooled our children early on, before they went to school, and then they did go into a private Christian school. And the reason why we chose to homeschool is because when I heard about those who were influencing policy within the education system, when I saw that kind of their views and where they wanted education to go, I didn't agree with that, and so I said, we, to my wife, I said, we need to, homeschool our children. That should definitely be an option because, uh, this again, the state should not have um, kind of power or authority over how one raises children or educates their children. We continue going back to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and our freedoms and liberties. So if one chooses to have to send the children to the public education system, that's great. But again, it should be a choice that individuals have.
All right, that's actually pretty fair. Next up is okay, legislative reform. Yes, I think I definitely agree with that one. Anyways, to ensure that legislation is comprehensible and that citizens have the time to read and understand those regulations and laws that their elected representatives wish to put into effect, we believe that all legislation must only be on one issue or topic, and no unrelated riders or amendments should be placed in any bill. Yes. All non emergency bills must be in public domain for at least 2 weeks before a vote may be conducted.
Yeah, and so yeah, this is we th- as far as this is we believe in this because there's so much that as far as legislation thing, the bills that are going or that are proposed and going for vote. And one of the things that I do know, because actually, as I ran for governor last year with the Constitutional Party of North Carolina, and when I was at one of the candidate forums, I remember there was an individual there, and she was one. She was very active, politically, and she was just saying, she said, there's so much to keep track of. How can she's basically saying it's impossible for someone to keep track of everything that's going on, and it that was such a true statement, because as much as you say I want to be involved, as much as you may say that I want to be educated, and I want to make sure that my voice is heard, or whatever the case may be, there's so much going on that it's very, very challenging, unless we um you know somehow that we come together and to kind of to fix this system, then there's going to be bills passed, and things going to come up that the people, a lot of people didn't even hear about. They didn't realize it. It's a bill is X number, 100 pages long. I mean, who has time to read all of that? And so we really need to come together as people, and again, it goes back to the holding accountable, calling elected officials and telling them, look, no, wait, time out. You need to pause on this. There's too much in this bill, or there's too much coming out at one time. We have to make our voices heard in order to get this under control. So this is going to come back to we the people, as far as being vocal and contacting our representatives.
I agree. I guess there's one more section of that's in the Constitution Party platform, and this is a long one. And this one, I'm actually glad that it's long, because this one is also very important to me. So I'm gonna read it. The Constitution Party of North Carolina steadfastly believes that the right to vote, a right that is of inestimable importance for the preservation of liberty and our republic, must be secured to all constitutionally qualified citizens, regardless of the individual's race, gender, religion, or political affiliation. I think that's something that the Democrats and Republicans certainly seem to lack. Without free choice at the ballot box, we the people fail to be free. Therefore, access to the election ballot for all candidates, regardless of political affiliation, ought to be free and equal. I apologize that I have to emphasize this, because I'm pretty sure there might be some Democrats and Republicans watching this, and they need to know about this themselves. Let's see here. Government has no right to artificially limit voter choice, and in consequence limit the voters' right to vote by placing arbitrary, restrictive, and unequal requirements on the participation and placement of political parties and candidates on the ballot. To encourage free and fair elections, all candidates and parties must be treated equally. We believe that instant runoff voting should be implemented in all federal, state, county, and local elections to replace the current past-the-post system that discourages minor party voting and competition. Instant runoff voting would allow for the reduction and hopeful elimination of the misconception of the wasted vote for minor parties, encouraging voting based on individual candidates, not the political party, all while ensuring a majority winner basis on individual preference and reestablish confidence in the electoral process. We oppose all limitations on United States citizens' free speech, and therefore oppose all contribution limits to and from political committees. We steadfastly oppose all programs under whatever guise where candidates for public office or political parties receive subsidies through taxpayer funds, often under the misleading name of voter-owned elections or publicly funded campaigns. We believe these programs to be abhorrent, as they use the individual's tax dollars and fund political campaigns that the individual may wholly oppose and do little to stem corruption in the political sector. The Constitution Party of North Carolina also opposes intrusions by the federal government on the state of North Carolina's right to prescribe its own reasonable rules within the bounds of individual liberty. The right of the citizens to vote and democratic government as delegated to the state under Article 2, Section 4, Clause 1 of the United States Constitution. Therefore, we wholly oppose and call for the repeal of Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which requires all voting related legislation in covered districts to be approved by the U.S. Department of Justice before they can become effective.
Yes, obviously you said a lot there. One of the things when we received ballot access last year, the Constitution Party of North Carolina did, and then we started fielding candidates, and like I said, we had candidate forums, and we went to different fairs and festivals, and people were shocked when they knew what it took. When we shared what it took to get on the ballot. The the petition drive and everything else, and then the state board of elections. Working with them uh, to it was very very challenging, and they definitely did not make it easy, and they don't want to make it easy on for independent party third parties in order to get on to receive ballot access. um that's not the will of the people, and there's nowhere in the Constitution that we see um that all these laws and regulations and the different types of requirements that the state imposes, that is we don't feel that that's constitutionally sound, and so that is a big problem. Like I said, we're going to what is the will of the people, and I think the state board of elections has lost sight of that as far as for the will of the people. So we obviously definitely oppose those types of those laws and limits and regulations and requirements, because it does it hurts those who are a third party, or even those who just want to run as an independent. You know, we live in a society. This society, every voice should be heard, and when you have all these regulations, you're stymieing the voice of the people.
Yeah, and in most states, it's much more difficult to run as a third party than it is to run as an independent. In North Carolina, that's not the case. The reverse is true. I believe last
That's
year for president, an independent had to get like 83,000, and it's not just for president. I believe it's for all statewide races, including U.S. Senate. So it's very disappointing. So fighting,
yes,
fighting for third parties is basically fighting for independence, because without third parties, there's going to be no one left to represent us.
you're exactly right. That's exactly right.
All right, we've actually gone over the entire platform of the Constitution Party of North Carolina. So, how is the party doing right now? What is the party currently doing?
So right now, the party. So since we're on the, piggybacking off the topic that we just talked about, so there's three ways. I said we received ballot access last year, and we ran. We had candidates run for office in 2024. So in order to remain on the ballot, or to keep your ballot access status in North Carolina, is one of three ways. One is that your presidential candidate is on the ballot in 35 states. So we didn't qualify for that. The second way is that your presidential candidate receives 2% of the vote in our state of North Carolina, which he didn't, or your candidate for governor, which was me, receives 2% of the vote in the governor's race, and which I didn't. And so those are the ways in which you can stay on the ballot. If you are not, you lose your ballot access status, and the state board of election does not recognize you as a political party as far as to field candidates. And so what has happened is that we have now so anyone who was registered as a Constitution Party in North Carolina, um, they or we are now unaffiliated. So the State Board of Elections sent us an update for our voter registration, and it now says unaffiliated. So so now we were starting the process over again to get ballot access status. Um, and one of the things I say is that anyone who's listening, if they would, you can go out to our website, constitutionpartync.com, and you can download a petition online, and and fill it out, and just has your kind of name, address, and put your signature on there, and then you just mail it to the address that's on the petition, and that would help us to get so we can get back on the ballot. And even if somebody wanted to go out and get more signatures, that would be great too, in order to help us. But that's one of the things that we're doing right now is we're going doing a petition drive where we've we're doing going to fairs and festivals to continue to talk about the Constitution Party of North Carolina, so that people know that we exist and that we're out there. So we do fairs, festivals. We go to gun shows, um, and then and that's part of in addition to educating and making people aware of the party. We are also doing our petition drive for ballot access at the same time. So those are some of the things that we're doing now. We have uh, bi-monthly calls of the first and third Mondays of the month, where we get on, and it's open to anyone can get on, and we talk about kind of just giving updates and various topics, and really discussing things that we can do to raise the awareness or that people have of the Constitutional Party of North Carolina, and seeking that we're looking to get more people involved. One of the things I do know is that when we were running our candidates in the election last year, we had a small number of people doing a lot, even with the petition drive. And so we want to get to the point where we have a lot of people doing a little, and we feel that in that, obviously that helps as far as us as a party, and we're not wearing people out, but also more people that we get involved, like I say, it creates a greater voice. We can reach more people, um, and because we the reception that we've received has really been great when people know who we are, they hear what we stand for. But like I said, it's just about getting that message out. So that's a big part of what we're doing right now. We also started a called a constitutional series of calls, which is the second Tuesday. We're doing those the second Tuesday of every month. So our face is on our we do it via Zoom and our Facebook Live. So these are some of the things that we're doing. Like I said, just to create engagement and to hopefully get people excited about what it is that we stand for. And we know that we're we're not disillusioned to think that this is not an uphill battle, and that, oh yeah, we're just gonna go and we're gonna have candidates and we're gonna win all offices and everything else like that. But this is it's a mission that we have. It's a belief that we stand for. We believe that it's worth the fight. We believe that we are our founding fathers, they sacrificed so much, and so you know they didn't sacrifice for us just to kind of just go along, get along, and whatever happens. No, they sacrificed and they fought so that we can continue the fight, and because people, as people say, freedom isn't free. We have to fight for our freedoms and our liberties, and so this is what the Constitution Party is. That's what we're doing right now, and that's the kind of the mission that we're on.
All right, that's pretty good. Now, this next question I've asked basically everybody so far. So, does the Constitution Party of North Carolina plan on uploading more videos on their party's YouTube channel?
You know what? We need to. Yeah, I'm actually really glad that you mentioned that, because that is something that we need to do. And I'm going to say that I don't want to say yes from the standpoint and then it doesn't happen, but that is definitely something that we've talked about. Videos, we've talked about, we need to get our website updated and certain things. Again, it goes back to um, the time, having people, because most of the people who are within the party work full-time jobs, the vast majority. And so we don't have like a lot of volunteers and things like that to help with getting videos uploaded, and the website and doing various things. So it's a lot of us who are working, that we spend our evenings, we spend our weekends, or what have you, to do certain things. And so we're, we're looking at, okay, on a priority list, what can we accomplish? So the basically the answer is that is definitely something that we want to do, because we do feel it is very important for engagement.
All right, that's pretty good. I'm glad to hear that. Anyways, the last question is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I don't think so. I think that we really want people to get involved, and it's not from a standpoint of, we say it's not about, if a person says, well, they may not want to become a member of the Constitution Party, or that's fine. Um, if a person, like, well, you're not a member of the Constitution Party, but you get on our calls, and you invited me to this. It's about, if we believe in you know fair and free elections, if we believe in the that everyone should have a voice, and should be able to run for office or what have you. That's what this is about. And so, you know if people could come, just give a little bit of time or what have you, or donations, we take that as well. That would be great. But we we really want people to, and it's not just, like I said, about a Constitution Party. One of the things I have been talking to people about is, I just call it 1 hour a week. And I say that if a person will, if every single individual who's, all the registered voters, because about 7.5 million registered voters in North Carolina, if everyone would give 1 hour a week to, whether it's reading and understanding the Constitution, U.S. Constitution, the North Carolina Constitution, um, looking to see kind of what bills are being proposed, going and seeing what's going on with the school board, or whatever it may be. If everyone would just spend 1 hour a week, whatever their interest is, and however they want to be involved. And that's one of the big things, when a lot of people, when I talk to, and I say, it's about the Constitution. From where I stand, it's about the Constitution. It's not about the Constitution Party. The Constitution is what's important, not the Constitution Party. The party is that we're just gathering together of like-minded people, to create a larger voice, if you will. But we just want people to stand on the Constitution. And if like I said, if all the registered voters would do that, just spend 1 hour a week, you know building community or whatever the case may be, that would be 7.5 million hours every single week that we are actively and consciously and intentionally doing something to make our community, our state better. And I think that's very important. So I just say to everyone that's out there, just give 1 hour a week, 1 hour of your time, just carve it out, in order to say, hey, this is how I'm going to do my part to help in this for free, to fight for freedom and liberty.
All right. With that being said, that's going to be it for this episode of the Political Freedom Fighters podcast. I really hope you all enjoyed. Once again, if you have enjoyed, hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell so you can be updated with new videos coming out every Friday afternoon, of course. So, and with that being said, I hope you all enjoy and have a great day. Take care.
James, thanks so much.